Hi, folks. I'm Sean Grilla. I'm a Caucasian male with brown eyes from Toronto, wearing a blue dress shirt and glasses. I lead the mixed reality and IoT business at Microsoft Canada, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this session. When Gartner named Microsoft a leader in the Magic Quadrant for industrial IoT platforms, one of the strengths Gartner called out was our partner ecosystem. Microsoft partners like Uptake are delivering Azure IoT-based solutions that drive real value with our customers. In this session, Uptake will explore how the Uptake Fusion solution is unlocking OEE operational efficiency and hear directly from their customer, Davey Textile Solutions, on how these benefits are being achieved at that organization. Please welcome Uptake and Davey Textile Solutions.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and thank you for joining us today, and thank you so much for that introduction, Sean. My name is Leanna Chan. I use pronouns she and her, and today I am wearing a black shirt that says Uptake, and I have black hair, and I'm wearing contact lenses. We are really excited to have you join us today to hear more about unlocking 100% OEE potential in manufacturing with our guest speakers today from Uptake as well as Davey Textile Solutions. And I'm happy to introduce a couple of our other guest speakers that'll be joining us today. First, I'd like to introduce Dr. Dave Shook, who is Uptake's Chief Data Officer and Microsoft's newest MVP. Dave has over 30 years of experience in helping companies obtain value from analysis of operational data. His expertise include defining and implementing industrial digital transformation programs, as well as designing and developing numerous industrial software products and solutions. His specialty is addressing complex data analysis and the integration of data from multiple sources, permitting centralized monitoring and management of distributed fleets of assets and large groups of operators. Dave has worked in several industries over his career, including upstream oil production, gas transmission, refining, as well as petrochemicals, plastics, forest products, mining, minerals processing, water treatment plants, as well as renewable energy. Next, I'd like to introduce Dan King, Vice President of Production, Research and Development at Davey Textile Solutions. Dan has been employed with Davey Textile Solutions for over 30 years, becoming a co-owner in 2000. He has a diploma of civil engineering technology and a degree in computer science, majoring in business applications. Dan started his career in the petroleum industry, with his focus quickly changing to textiles. In his position as Vice President of Product R&D, Dan focuses on operational excellence that includes Lean Six Sigma technology, as well as methodologies, material production, contractor management, and new product developments. Dan has a passion for computer science and has led him to undertake IoT developments within Davey Textile Solutions. Work in his area was initially developed through a student capstone project. However, in working with Uptake, continuing with a full-scale rollout. Dan is now exploring control systems with AI and ML, as well as methods for utilizing blockchain within Davey Textile Solutions. Dan has also led the adoption of Davey Textile Solution operational excellence initiatives that is including Lean and Six Sigma implementations. Under Dan's guidance, Davey Textile Solutions has successfully graduated 3 black belts, over 20 green belts in his staff. That's a great achievement. The group of the cost of manufacturing savings has exceeded over $1 million. Dan combines his IT background with his extensive textiles experience to realize new innovative opportunities for organizations, including recycling post-consumer aramid garments, developing sustainable organic fibers from locally sourced cellulose, designing end-of-life sensors for firefighters, bunker suits, and many more. We're really excited to hear more about the great things that Davey Textiles has achieved with Uptake Technologies. Today, we're going to be going over our goals, what's happening in the industry, typical OEE challenges, and we're going to talk about liberating operational data, and of course, diving into what Davey Textiles Solutions has done, and then next, enabling sustainability. Over to you now, Dave.
Thank you for that, Leanna. My name is Dave Shook. I use pronouns he and him. And today I'm wearing a light blue shirt with a collar for once, and have graying brown hair and purple framed glasses. Today, what we're going to go through is what I consider to be a really good example of what happens when a customer knows what they want to do, or an industrial company knows what they want to do. They've got a pretty good idea about how they want to do it, and really just needs help getting through some of the barriers that they encountered along the way. So today's agenda really is talking about the Davey Textile Solutions goal, our goal at Uptake to help them achieve their goal, what the sort of barriers and challenges are that get in the way, how Uptake sort of helps companies overcome those barriers, and then let Dan talk about Davey Textile Solutions specifically, their challenge and journey and success, and then we can sort of move on to the larger picture around enabling sustainability. So in commerce, we all have the same goals. We all want to increase revenue, minimize costs, and manage risks. Uptake's role in helping you achieve those goals is to provide you with the ability to connect your people, your machines, and your data in a scalable and secure way so that you can then make better informed decisions and more sophisticated decisions to run your business more effectively. Now, in manufacturing, there's a study done about a year ago by Microsoft that identified a number of common themes that really apply throughout all of manufacturing. Now, a lot of cases, these have been around forever. However, the events of the last couple of years have thrown a few of them into sharp relief. Supply chain optimization, up until a couple of years ago, was all about driving down costs at a time when supply chain performance was really pretty predictable. Now, with COVID and various sort of transportation disruptions resulting from that, to say nothing of recent geopolitical events, supply chains are no longer as predictable as they were. So optimization shifts from minimizing cost to managing in times of uncertainty. Similarly, there's this notion of manufacturing operations management, which was a concept created about 20 years ago, which really says that if you want to manage your manufacturing operations properly and optimally, you need to do it off of a consistent set of data and aimed at a consistent set of business practices. And for being able to compete these days, you really need to focus on managing your business as a whole rather than optimizing little bits and pieces of it. I'd now like to introduce Dan King to speak to the next slide, which is really about the specific goal that he was beginning to address at Davey.
Thanks, Dave. So first of all, I'd like to express that we're extremely honored to be asked to participate in this webinar. Thank you very much. So my name is Dan King, and I use the pronouns he and him. Today I'm wearing a blue shirt, and what hair I do have is gray. I also have a goatee that's fairly significantly gray as well. So Dave, you were addressing the OEE. OEE is an acronym for overall operational equipment effectiveness. it is, like the slide says, the gold standard for measuring manufacturing productivity. Everybody, it's a standard, so it's really nice and comparable between different industries, different manufacturing facilities. Like the slide says, it measures quality, product quality, performance of our equipment, and availability of that equipment. So to attain 100% OEE, which is fairly challenging, you'd have to have a 100% defect-free material with equipment that was running at 100% speed and available 100% of the time. So very challenging metric to attain, but it is a very good metric because it does really highlight issues in your processes. Back to you, Dave.
Thank you, Dan. Now, getting to OEE from a business point of view and from an operational point of view is a real challenge. But getting the data so that you can understand how to achieve OEE is itself a significant part of that problem. The problem is this: the data that you need in order to understand how to achieve high OEE, 100% ideally, that data comes from many different systems. It is structured in different ways depending on the system it comes from. Often the results data, the quality data comes in quite some time after the fact. You have to often spend a lot of manual effort aligning data that came in from different sources and correcting data. And that can lead to a very high workload on the people whose job it is to sort of organize the data and perform the analyses and then correct them afterwards. And then finally, when data comes in late and decisions come in late, it may be too late to take action upon it, or the data may not be structured and the analyses may not be structured in such a way that you actually can take concrete action based upon the data, or you may not understand what the trade-offs are. So frequently in manufacturing, when you're optimizing, you have to weigh one benefit against another cost. Do I run this machine at a higher rate to generate more product today, even though it will result in a higher probability of that piece of equipment breaking down and the spare parts for it are not on hand, and so on. So that type of trade-off is central to achieving manufacturing operational performance, and you need to put a lot of work into getting to a point where you can make those database decisions with a sense of confidence. So in order to have a fighting chance of making that type of decision effectively, you really need unified operational data. You need your operational data in effect in one place, organized in a consistent way. And that's our goal at Uptake, is we're trying to make it so that you, the manufacturers, have the ability to move, store, and curate your operational data in your cloud in a sustainable way, cost effectively, and of course, rapidly and securely. Now, there's a lot of barriers to this. And rather than go through all of these things that are needed in detail, I just want to say this. The term industrial strength exists for a reason. And what companies need is industrial strength data acquisition and organization. And that means that it has to work all the time, not most of the time. It has to work when there are, things going wrong, when things are more difficult than, you may have anticipated, when it has to work evenings and weekends without supervision. There's all sorts of aspects to industrial strength data acquisition and organization that you really need just so that you can sleep at night and know that the data is coming in and is being organized properly and is actually going to show up on time and will be usable. Now, this is what our Fusion product does. Fusion is a product that acquires data from operational technology systems using industrial strength connections. So we can collect data at extremely high data rates without overloading the sources. We can transport all of that information up to your Microsoft Azure environment in a secure, reliable, robust, industrial strength manner. Once the data is in Azure, we extensively leverage Microsoft's platform as a service components that you can see here. The reason we do it isn't to make friends with Microsoft. We do it because it drives down your cost of ownership. So by leveraging these services, bringing the data in through the IoT Hub, utilizing Azure Data Explorer as the data tier, getting the data to Azure Data Lake Storage, this minimizes the cost of ownership of your data and allows that data to be exposed for really any type of analytic use, whether we're dealing with in the use cases around data analysis for troubleshooting, whether we're dealing with reporting, data visualization, long-term business intelligence needs, and dealing with all of the different types of industrial data. So this is really the jewel in our crown at Uptake is this Fusion, which really brings the data from these disparate, self-contained, on-premise systems to a single place where you can finally get value from your own data. Now, I don't want to steal Dan's thunder, but just to set up what Dan was able to do with Fusion, together with Davey, we built this downtime tracker solution on top of Fusion, and that allowed Dan to achieve some benefits. Now, what you'll see him talking about is things like the automated secure data collection and storage, the accurate detection and recording of significant manufacturing events, the ability for them to access the data and collaborate as humans using that data, and this is really Dan's particular gift in here, is that he had specific targets that he was aiming at, and he knew how he wanted to get there. So he was able to address specific targets, and he knew what decisions he wanted to make, and he was able to eliminate some operational bottlenecks. So with no further ado, I want to hand over to Dan King, and you can talk about what Davey was able to do.
Thank you very much, Dave. Yeah, so appreciate all the introductions and the explanation, the backstory of where we're at and where we've come from and now where we're at. And I guess I'll also be explaining some of the ongoing projects we're working on right now. So just a quick background on Davey Textile. So we formerly were not a manufacturer. We started back in 1986 as a textile distribution company out of Western Canada. But as the textile industry started slowly falling into decline, we realized we had to pivot. So we looked around to what was required in the industry, and there was a big requirement for high visibility safety materials. So we got into a partnership with 3M and started using their 3M Scotchlite reflective materials. And initially, we were just using contract manufacturing, but in 2010, we decided we better take control of our entire vertical. So we started manufacturing. So we got a couple of looms in, we got a finishing range, some other equipment required to make, as we call it in the industry, triple trim. Now we're operating, actually this is a little out of date on this slide, we're actually operating a 40,000 square foot warehouse now. We just expanded just through COVID actually, so through the pandemic. So yes, we're a fully scaled manufacturer now. We're operating 23 looms, a full range finishing unit, and lots of lamination equipment here. So the main target of our program is, of course, highly effective manufacturing of this trim. The Competition to this typically comes from other countries, specifically China, Japan, places like that, where labor is a little less expensive than in Canada. So our challenge when we took this on was to try to find a method of being extremely effective at manufacturing this material, so we could be cost competitive. So we first of all bought very, very good equipment. Didn't shortchange the equipment itself. But we also wanted to make sure that the equipment operated relatively low in labor. So therefore, we focused on automation. So initially, it was just getting very, very good equipment. But it was actually about 4 years ago when we realized not only do we have to get good equipment, we also have to look at the OEE that we've explained before. How effective is that equipment in operating? Well, you can't do much to make equipment more effective without really understanding how effective the equipment is to begin with. So that required us to get some sort of metrics in place, automated metrics. Now, in the picture that you see in the slide in front of you, you can see a small computer on this equipment, but one of the challenges with that is I couldn't interface to that device at all. So I needed to work with somebody, and of course, Uptake came along. It was a fantastic opportunity, and we actually engineered new computers to be placed onto this equipment. And you can see it down on the bottom. There's a little gray box down there. That's our microprocessor we've installed on these looms to actually take the operational data from the unit itself and send it up into the Azure cloud in Fusion. So that was phase one. Right now, we're getting some great data, but we are now looking at how to migrate that technology into other aspects of our organization. So when we were doing this pilot program, we determined there was a few challenges. So we were doing manual data collection. So our operators were out reading that little computer off the front of the looms and writing that down on a piece of paper. Okay, so we had a potential for inaccurate information through that process. We also had limited use of what we could do with that data. It was all put into an Excel spreadsheet and was very challenging for us to manipulate. We had arbitrary targets, product capacity, equipment utilization. We didn't really know what we were after at that point in time. We had our decision making was oftentimes done just with what we felt. We didn't see that was a very effective process, or this was a very effective process. So it was kind of like following low-hanging fruit, whatever we saw to be there and address that, rather than actually using some numerical analysis to actually determine where our real weaknesses were. And the third thing, or the final thing that we dealt with was the bottlenecks in limited capacity. We didn't really know how much a individual device could do. So therefore, we didn't know how many we needed to have in place to do what we needed to do. So with these challenges, we had to start addressing it with some solutions. And that's where our relationship with Uptake really started to shine. So we looked at how do we create an automated, secure data collection system. Where are we going to store that data? We determined, of course, cloud-based solutions was going to be a much better solution than having something on-prem. Single source of truth, that was a very important process. We had too many different systems that were competing with different storage locations, and that information didn't necessarily align to each other. So we wanted to get back to a single source of truth, one data collection point that was feeding up into one repository that we could reference to determine the actual information. We could address specific targets to maximize our efficiencies, and that was very, very important to us. Decision making, we could now take that data and we could make, like it says here, fast, accurate, and based on true data, right? Rather than just guessing at things, or like I said before, low-hanging fruit, what we thought we might be considering a problem. Here we're actually getting the accurate data that we can address and create better solutions. And then, of course, we're eliminating any of the bottlenecks in our manufacturing processes. So this is a visualization of what we were dealing with and where that migrated to. So on the left side, this is the pen and paper process. So we're writing this data down. Of course, it's whoever's interpreting the written report, of course, is trying to read somebody's writing. Oftentimes a zero could look like a decimal place, or, we all know what sort of challenges we get there. It could be mistakenly entered into a system improperly as well. So the metrics were coming up okay, but not accurate enough for us really to react to. So by moving to the processes on the right, now this is specific to the pilot process, the loom information. But the first step is the bottom left corner of that screen that shows a Anden system. That's a term reference to the Lean Six Sigma, showing uptime, showing availability of devices. Anything in red is a down device. Anything in amber is being addressed by an operator, and anything in green is operating. Of course, this also shows if there's a machine that's not actually operating in black. On the bottom right corner of the screen, we're looking at actual what's being logged. So as the machine goes through different states, we're logging different types of defects, whether the machine went down because of in textiles, we referenced the warp and the weft or catch cords. These are all different types of defects we can encounter. All those are logged by this data store. And then on the top, you see the actual metrics. Is the Power BI report that we programmed that actually shows us in the light blue lines show us uptime. So we can at a glance visually see what sort of uptime we're dealing with. This is a downtime data store. So we're seeing downtime information, but my next goal is to really migrate this over to true OEE valuations. So you can see here how we've migrate that data. So on premise, we have those looms that are tracking that data or recording that data, sending it up into the Microsoft Azure cloud environment, and then we can draw back down into any device. So we're agnostic as to device usage. I can pick it up on my cell phone. I can pick it up on my desktop. I could be at home. I could be at in wherever. And looking at this data. So I can see interactively what's going on with my operations, but I can also look at any time at what my history has been. It's very, very accurate information. So this is just something I've mentioned to Liana. We're now at we're better able to monitor and limit unplanned downtime. With the Uptake solution, we have improved our on-time performance against our manufacturing schedule and enhanced our overall operating efficiency by 100%. And I want to contrast, that's not to 100%, but rather by 100%. So we've definitely gained our efficiencies through this process. So yeah, we believe in transformative power of machines, people, data, and especially OT time series data. Back to you, Dave.
Thank you very much, Dan. It's always really rewarding when you see software that you put effort into developing being used by people to achieve real business benefits that you hope they were able to achieve. But it's wonderful to have that validation. So we have, just as a closing piece, we have a short video that we think provides a pretty effective view of how Uptake Fusion works and how it enables the kind of thing that Dan was able to achieve.
IT is in the cloud. Now it's OT's turn. There's just one problem. Operational technology data, OT, is problematic to extract from on-premise data historians. There's no clear way to unlock the data. It's a security risk, and it's expensive. That's why heavy industry is turning to Fusion from Uptake. Fusion extracts OT data from historians and transfers it securely to your Azure cloud. Transfer time series, historical, and metadata without any loss of data or granularity, all in a matter of weeks, not months. Even better, no tag fees, no licensing requirements, just one set price for data moved. Once your OT data is in the cloud, it's automatically curated for data visualizations and advanced analytics. Data is also organized and correlated for different users and multiple use cases. It's your data centralized in your Azure cloud. Run your own analysis, build out a data lake strategy, and give access to third-party applications. With Fusion, OT data and IT data can both be stored in the open Azure cloud platform, backed by the security of Microsoft. Management wants OT data in the cloud to make more informed decisions. Now you know how. Purchase Uptake Fusion on the Azure Marketplace. Fusion. Data done right.
I hope you've enjoyed learning how Uptake Fusion enabled Davey Textile solutions with industrial intelligence to optimize their inventory management while matching their customer needs. I want to thank my guests for sharing their story. Thank you, Liana Chan and Dr. Dave Shook from Uptake. And thank you, Dan King from Davey Textile Solutions. I also want to thank you for investing the time to learn about how this technology can help your organization. You will receive an on-demand version the next day to rewatch this webinar on your own time. Please check your junk mail if you don't see that. And finally, to help you continue your learning journey, we have a few resources at your disposal that I'd like to share. If you're interested in driving deeper into the Uptake Fusion solution, please reach out to liana.chan@uptake.com. For IoT solution strategic insights, take a look at the latest Microsoft IoT Signals report, aka.ms/IoT Signals. Finally, be sure to check out Microsoft's leadership position in the Gartner 2021 Magic Quadrant for Industrial IoT Platforms. You can take a look at that at aka.ms/IoT Lead blog. We will continue to address your questions with Liana in the Q&A window for the next 10 minutes or so until the portal closes. So please share with us any questions that you have. Thank you.